Badass business owners, welcome to another episode of the Local Small Business Coach Podcast, where each episode we work on getting you to $100,000 in take-home pay. So if you're all ready to boost your profits, increase your sales, improve your processes, and develop stronger teams so you can stop living job to job, then let's dive in. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Local Small Business Coach Podcast. You know, I have to laugh. Okay, I'm going to take a few minutes and I'm going to peel back the curtain for a minute. I think I've mentioned this on the show a few times, is because of the day gig and doing this on the side. I do this every Sunday. And every Sunday I do both episodes for the week. And I get up early Sunday and I grab my little Yorkie. He comes under my table and my desk while I'm working on this. And then I just take the notes and everything that I wrote through the week of what I wanted to talk about. And I kind of look through them and I'm like, okay, let's go. Showtime. Let's record. And normally I just start, hey, welcome to the Local Small Business Coach Podcast. And I'm ready to go. I'm fired up. It happens. And usually it just kind of gets flowing from there. Well, early when I first started the podcast, I used to script it more out. So I was always so nervous that I would screw up and I wouldn't remember something. And then one day I just realized, you know what? The shows are 10 times better when I just speak from my heart and what's there. And if I jotted down the notes so I can make sure I don't miss any of the key points and stuff, it seems to be working and people resonate with it and everything else. The reason I'm telling all of you this is I have never had so many problems starting the podcast as I have the last two. So the one you heard the other day and this one, I have probably stopped and started each of them. I think that one I stopped maybe 4 times. And on this one, I'm on my 4th time as well. And it's so funny because I start off with the normal thing and then my brain just goes blank. Or I'll start talking and I'll be like, in my head, I'm hearing, what the heck are you even talking about? And I have to stop and I have to start it all over again. And then when I started this one, I debated if I should just start, just peel back that curtain and just kind of tell you guys that I'm a dork and some days it just doesn't work. And maybe it's because it's Easter Sunday and the last thing I should be doing is podcast, but, it's all good because I really enjoy this. And what's funny is I've actually gotten more joy out of it over the last, say, month and a half as I've started the Facebook group and talking to you guys because I just feed off of your energy and the emails and everything else. And it just, I don't know, everything's falling into place and it gets me excited. And when I get on here, it's funny because you're basically looking either at a computer screen or I've got a couple little things in my room I can sometimes look at or the TV's on in the background. And I today is not meant to be recording podcasts. And that's probably why I rattled so much on the last one is my brain just was, I don't know, it just was going in so many different directions. And I'm having that today. So for some of you guys, you're going to love this episode because you get to see Tammy being a dork. And then some of you guys that are all straight business and very analytical and straight, I'm going to drive you absolutely batty. And I apologize. I usually try to get to the meat of the subject so that we can talk about it. And for those of you that like that part, I just apologize. I promise they're not going to be like this in the future. It's just having one of those mornings, I think. So what am I going to talk about today? Well, today I'm actually, it's Thursday and I always like to try to answer questions I get from all over the place. And I'm still going to do a question, even though I did a question the other day. And this one actually comes from one of the Facebook groups I'm a part of. And it's come up a few different times. And I thought, you know what, that's probably going to be a very good question for the podcast. And it has to do with answering your phone after hours. Let's just say you run your business 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and people are calling you at night. They're calling you on the weekends. And should you answer that phone? Should you be available full time to people? And when do you get to have a life? When do you get to have family time? And that's really where the gist of the entire conversation goes in is this, in the old days, let me kind of step back. When you go back 30, 40 years ago, people worked and they lived to work. Basically there's a saying, back in those days, you lived to work. Work was everything. You did what you had to do to earn the money, put it on the table, work. Well, then as we started going through the next couple of generations, it became more about I work to live, not that I live to work. So, and I'm part of that generation that's kind of in between, but there's people that just work is it. That's what they have to do. So they go to work every single day. And you probably know of people that had the same job for 30, 40, 50 years. They went to work all the time. That's just what they did. Maybe your parents did that or your grandparents did that. And nowadays there's people go, you know what? I have to work because I have to survive. The only reason I go to work is to survive. Though there are some people out there that are workaholics like myself. They just love work. That's where we get our high from, as I call it. And then there's other people that, you know what? I work, but I want to play just as much as I want to work. Or I value family time much more. Maybe they had, parents or grandparents that really were at work all the time and they never got to see their kids be raised. Or maybe you were raised by parents that were never home because they were always at work. Whatever the case may be, there's all these different dynamics. Not one's better than the other. Everything's important. It's about your priorities and what's important to you. And sometimes people, they want to make sure that, hey, when I'm on family time, I'm not on work time. So it's a very valid question. It's a very important question that goes on when people want to know, should I be answering my phones, on the weekends and or at night or off hours, basically? And if so, why should I do that? What are the pros and cons to it? And then what are some of the alternative options that are out there for me? So I want to cover this topic. So everybody's entitled to the way they want to do their business. So one, there's not a right way and there's not a wrong way. It's just a matter of accepting, every choice we make has consequences. So if we want to answer the phone all crazy hours of the time, you can't complain that you can never turn it off, that you can't stay out of that work mode. But if at the same time if you say, hey, I want to turn it off at 5 o'clock, I'm not going to answer any phone calls. You also can't complain that you're missing business because of doing that. Everything comes with a consequence. Both are good. Both are bad. There's not one that's right. That's one that's wrong. It's about what's right for you, your family, your situation. And that's why I want to make sure I say that first and foremost, because I think sometimes people have a little bit of guilt that goes in. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? You know what? Every choice you make, it's right or wrong. You weigh out the pros and cons and which one's more or less painful for you. So let's take a look at a couple of the things that come to mind when I think about this topic and should you do it or should you not? One of the pros of you turning off your phone and not answering it after business hours is, guess what? You get a life. And that's sometimes something that I know I have sacrificed. Sometimes I know I sacrificed through the years. I'm a workaholic. I love working. And it's not because for the love of the paycheck. I mean, don't get me wrong. I work a fair share of hours because I needed the paycheck and still do. But at the same time, as I'm at a point in my life where, if I don't want to do something at a certain time, I don't have to do it. But most of the time when I do answer phone calls or respond, today's Easter, I've already responded to this. I've got an offer out there right now. And, I've gone back and forth with the lady. Both of us are crazy. We're both working on Easter trying to negotiate a deal. I could have ignored that email and answered it tomorrow, or I could have just given her the quick answer that she needed to be able to move on. It didn't change my day. It didn't change anything else. Some people would say, how dare you reach out to me on Easter? I'm not going to answer you. Okay, fine. That's your choice. I'm not going to have my feelings hurt one way or another. Now if her conversation kept going and going and going, and now I was like, okay, well, now we've crossed over. I'm not going to continue to do this. So yes, not answering does allow you to have a life. You can focus on what it is that you want to focus on. So that's one of the biggest things. Another thing that's great about it is it sets boundaries. And sometimes you need those boundaries with your clients, especially those of you that have reoccurring business. In real estate, for example, we have folks that we work with for an extended period of time. And when the first time I answer them at 10 o'clock at night and I find out that they're a late person, guess what? They're going to start emailing me, texting me, whatever, going crazy all night. And I go, oh, okay, I opened up a can of worms with that one. Is that something that I really wanted to do? We have no boundaries. Whereas if people have boundaries and they tell them up front saying, hey, these are my office hours. These are when I work. I'll be glad to answer any questions, conversations, whatever you want to have during these hours. Not saying that if it's 5 after, I won't have that conversation, but for the most part, I start winding down. It becomes 100% about my family. If I tell people that, and this is two parts. One is it sets boundaries, but two, it sets expectations. And that's the third part I want to come into. You've got to, no matter which way it is, you've got to set expectations for these people. And when you don't set the boundaries or you do set the boundaries, guess what? It's the same thing as setting most of the time the expectations of what they can do. So if you continue to answer your phone at 7, 8 o'clock at night, guess what? Some of those people are going to continue to answer you 7, 8 o'clock at night. So don't be shocked if you do that. But if you set the boundaries and you're like, look, after this time, it's family time. I have dinner with my family at 7:00. And after that, I shut down and it's all about my family. Just communicate the message. People will respect it. And if it's a customer or client who won't respect it, then really, are they a customer or client that you want to have anyways? So maybe there's a happy medium. The key is to make sure you communicate. And for most of us, our family might be our sanity. You know what? We've had a crazy hectic day. And when we wind down with the family at night, calms us down, puts us in a good place, washing the baby, giving the baby a bath or whatever the case may be, or just enjoying dinner with the family. That might be your calm, cooling place. For some people, they go to work to escape their family. Maybe they've got a crazy family and the only way that they can stay sane is to go to work. I've been there. There's been seasons of my life where it's you know what? It's just better for me to be at work because then I don't have to think of all the craziness going in my world. And it may not be family per se, but let's just say that, you know, life's a little rough at that time or some things are happening and it's just easier for you to be at work because you know you're focused and you can put that off to the side and deal with the other stuff later on. So sometimes setting those boundaries can work for you. Now, here's one of the things. Remember, I said you got to be ready for the consequences. There are going to be times, I'm not going to lie, that, you know, that phone rings at 7:05 and you've set a hard boundary. You've turned off your phone. You're not answering. And guess what? It's a business call and somebody's looking to use your services or your business. And if you don't answer, they may move on to the next person. That's a reality. You know, in today's world with instant gratification and the fact that we can call 5 people because Google lines up the next 5 people, you're going to miss some business. You just have to, if you're going to say you're going to turn off your phone, that you have to accept that fact that's going to happen. You're going to have some lost business. I know whenever I don't answer the phone, that the odds are, you know, if it's a real estate person, that they might move on to the next real estate agent. It happened the other day with an agent that I know. He was taking a day off and he wanted to have the day off and he absolutely deserved the day off. The man's a machine. He works all the time. And guess what? One of his clients cheated and went on with somebody else because how dare he take a day off and put them off to the next day. Unfortunately, that is part of doing business. Some people are going to move on, especially in today's world, because we make it really easy for them to find someone else that will answer. Now, one way that you can help offset that is to have messages that you can send people. I find that I tend to retain a lot of my folks because I do tell them that I'm tied up with something or whatever, and I'll get back to them as soon as I can. People also know I'm like, hey, is it all right if I text them back? I'm like, is it all right if we talk tomorrow? I'm spending time with the family or I'm at the movies with the family, whatever the case may be. Sometimes it's just that communication that makes the difference between them moving on to the next person and not. So if you're not going to answer your phone, have some way that you can communicate to these people that you'll be reaching out to them during a certain time. Maybe it's a message on your phone saying, sorry, if you're calling after 7:00, I'm spending time with my family. I'll be glad to reach back out to you first thing in the morning, and whatnot. So, you know, there's different things that we can do through our text messaging, through our voicemail systems, through our website that really help, once again, go back to those boundaries and setting expectations for people. Because you really want to make sure that you do that. People need to understand. And more than likely, if they've already have a relationship with you, because here's where you tend to lose people. It's not your existing relationships that you tend to lose people. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but most of the time, if you're going to lose a relationship, it's with someone that you never had a relationship with in the first place. But with your existing folks, once you kind of let them know and maybe you go over it, if you've got a hard stop on things, then make sure you tell them during your first meeting or your second meeting, hey, just so you know, as we continue to work together and go forward, these are the hours. And people go, oh, wow, I'm really connected to you. I really like you. I love what you do. And guess what? They don't have a problem with you setting your hours and whatnot. So that's not bad. You know, ultimately, I guess it kind of comes about as, can you find a happy medium between all of them? You know, can you have those text messages, like I said, or those emails or whatnot? Are there other ways that you can meet the needs of these people that are calling you up? Absolutely. For example, one of those things is an answering service. Doctors' offices and stuff like that, they tend to have one. I've run into them with other businesses. I've had accountants that have done it, especially the bigger the business. A lot of times you'll see them run into it. But with today's technology, there are people out there that are offering the services even to smaller mom and pop kind of places like yourself that you can use. And what they do is they take the message, and what they'll do is they'll either text it to you, leave a voice message. Somehow each one's a little different. They'll let you know, hey, this is the customer that called. And then you have the ability to say, yeah, I'll get a hold of them tomorrow, or I'm going to call them right away. It's an emergency. I need to get a hold of them. So an answering service is something to look into if you think that might work and give you that happy medium. You have to offset the cost of them to decide, is it worth you carrying? Do they only charge you when you get a call? Do they charge you a flat fee for the month? Just weigh out everything if it's right for you. Try to see if you can get some recommendations or other people that might be using their services, or just try it out for a little bit, see how it feels to you. But there are some other things that you can do as well. One of which would be frequently asked questions, FAQs, if you will, that you can put on your website. So sometimes people will find you through your website, and you can put on there, what are you getting? What are typically the calls? Think back, take a log for a while. What are people calling you after hours for? Is it just for your services, or is it to ask you questions? Is it to ask you, the hours of operation, what types of services that you do? Whatever the case may be, is start asking yourself, what are people going outside of business hours and asking you? Maybe it's, how do I get a quote, or how do I set up time for you to come on out? Whatever the case may be, can you answer that on your website? Does your website answer that question in the first place? Can you answer it on there? Can you encourage people to ask you that question? You can text it right back. Sometimes I do that because I'll tell people, leave me a message and I can answer the question and I'm done and it's 2 seconds. But really make sure you're using your website to the full ability that you're capable of doing. Is take those frequently asked questions. And what's cool about that on most websites is you can always add to it. So take your top 3, 4, 5 questions. And then when you start realizing, hey, I'm being asked this all the time, people are calling me after hours, can I put that on the website? And you'll be shocked that most of the time that people are asking you questions are things that you probably could put on the website. And once again, it goes down to setting boundaries and expectations. And if you let people know that, hey, that answer's on the website, believe it or not, it could take care of some of those issues for you. So make sure you look at adding that section to your website, frequently asked questions, with the most common questions that you get. Like we said, your voicemail, make sure that it answers some of those questions. You could even put in there, thanks for calling Joe's Roofing. Our hours are 8 to 5. If you would like to have a quote, just send me over to quotes at Joe's Roofing, whatever the case may be. Can you leverage and change your voice message to be able to answer some of those questions of what people might be calling you for? So that's another option that you have. The key to this entire thing is communicate. You need to let them know what they can expect for your hours. You need to communicate when they can expect to hear back from you, whether it's a phone call they left, an email. Do you have a policy that you return things within 4 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, 48 hours? Make sure you do it. The other thing I really want to make sure that you do, and I ran into this again last week, and I've run into this all the flipping time, and it drives me absolutely batty, is if you're going to have on your website for people to be able to contact you through the website, you need to test to make sure that it goes back to you. A, that it goes to you, and B, that you respond to it. And roofing was on the top of my head because once again, and it seems to happen with roofers a lot. Once again, I reached out to a business, asked for a quote on something or some basic information for my client that I was trying to coordinate. And guess what? They never got back to me. And matter of fact, there was another business. I did the exact same thing. I was trying to it was a newer business I haven't done business with. I was trying to reach out to them outside of business hours, which is why it ties to this, is I was doing it late at night. It was after business hours. I wanted to reach out to them. I didn't have their basic communication, but I saw they on their website I could contact them. I reached out to them. Guess what? They never got back with me. It drives me batty. So if you're going to push people, if you're not going to answer your phone, and you're going to have some contact information on a website or something like that, please make sure that you actually respond to it. And you have something on there that says, hey, we'll be back in touch with you by this date. It's really, really important. And then you have to do the hard part. You have to actually live up to those commitments. You have to return those phone calls. You have to live up to those promises. It's very, here's the thing. The reason people cheat on you and go other places is because we don't get back to them. And the reason that they call us after hours and they want us is because that's the type of world we live in. It's not like it used to be where everybody went to work 8 to 5. People have jobs that are all over the place. And maybe the only time they can reach out is 7 o'clock at night because they can't call during the day. If you really want to have your business and you want to have your personal time, I'm okay with that. But find a way, if you really want to have a hard cutoff of 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, weekends, Sundays, whatever the case may be, I applaud you. I want you to have a life. I want you to have family times. But I also want to challenge you that you need to put things in place that still answer the questions most of these people have, and that you have a way for them to leave you a message and for you to get back with them on Monday. So if you're not going to be working the weekends or you're not going to be working Sundays, just tell people, say, hey, I take Sundays off to be part of my family, but I love your business. I value your business. I would love to get back with you on Monday. Please leave me a message here through this way, and I will get a hold of you first thing. Give people the option. If they want to run and they want to go find someone different, fine. You're never going to stop that. But don't push them to somebody else. And the way you push them to somebody else is by not giving them a way to communicate with you after hours. And that's my biggest takeaway that I want you guys to have, is that, if you're wondering, should you answer the phone call on the weekends or at night or on the whatever the case may be, whatever time off you want to have, you don't have to do that. But what you do have to do is have a way for them to communicate to you and have a clear path for when they know that you're going to get back with them. That is the most important thing that you can do. And with that, I am going to go ahead and start to wrap this up. And don't forget that if you have a question for me that you would like to have answered, you can do it a couple different ways. You can go leave me or send me an email at tammy@localsmallbusinesscoach.com, tammy@localsmallbusinesscoach.com, or you can use the speak pipe button and leave me a voice message. I'll put it in the show notes for a link for that as well. And don't forget, you can always join our Badass Local Small Business Owner Facebook page and ask your question in there, because once you join, you get to ask questions and I answer them, as well as other local small business owners answer them as well. And with that, I am going to be out of here and I am going to go enjoy Easter with the family. All right. I know that probably sounds weird with you listening to this on Thursday, me talking about Easter, but hey, it is what it is. With that, I will say bye and I will see you next week. Bye for now. Hey, badass local small business owner, before you go, if you would like to join our Facebook group, come on over. Go over to Facebook and in the search function, put in there badass local small business owner. It's going to pop up the Facebook page. We're just starting out, so be one of the founding members here in this Facebook group. It's going to be different than the other ones. We're not going to be blasting marketing materials and any of that junk. No, this is real life questions. We're going to help each other out. And yes, I'm going to be in that room as well, checking in on you guys and answering your questions. So come on, join our Facebook group, Badass Local Small Business Owners. Type it into the search function or look in the show notes and click there and it will take you there. Join us, won't you?